Hi, Jimmy the Butcher. Today we're going to make a fancy center cut gourmet country style. And what we're going to use here is I have a nice beautiful piece of Duroc pork. Duroc pork is a heritage breed of pork like Brookshire that my local Kroger store has started to carry, and I'm very excited about that. This is how you spell it if you want to Google it. What we're going to do is we're going to take a portion of this and we're going to turn it into country styles. And if you look at this, if you look closely here, you can see this is the baby backs. Can you see that? There's the, let me hold it up here where you can see. This is what you would buy as baby back ribs. And then that's why the pork loin is so cheap in the summertime, is because they're selling all these baby backs. And because the baby backs sell for more money, they leave a lot of the pork loin on the baby back because it's more profitable for the packer. So just like doing a baby back, what we're going to start by doing is we're going to take and remove the membrane on the bottom. And what I do is I just stick my knife underneath there a little bit, right on the bone. Just need something you can grab a hold of. You turn it around here where you can see it better. Get a hold of that, and we'll just pull that off. Looks like it's a two-part job today. Okay. And there's really two ends. This end is actually the nicer end. The end that's closer to the chuck, you can see how it's kind of a little darker than normal pork, which is what makes the Duroc pork so good. But what we're going to use for the country styles here, we're going to use this other end. And I think I'm going to do like 4 bones. And the way butchers count is we tap the end of the bone till we find it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's probably enough. Yeah, we'll do a nice 4-rib country style here. Then we'll just set this aside. And it's a pretty simple process. What we're going to do, really what we have here is a little rack of pork. You notice that what's happened here is they've cut the chine off, and the bones that are on here are called feather bones. Those have been nicely removed. And this is just the way I bought it. I didn't have to request this at all. So you could roast this just like a nice little rib roast of pork. But what I want to do is I want to make some country styles out of it. So to do that, I'm going to butterfly it open, and what I want to do is I want to cut in like that, and then open it up to a flat piece. And then on the back side here, I'm going to, between the bones, I'm going to cut and score it, cut and score it. The reason I'm doing that is I want to expose more surface so I can get more of my nice rib rub in there. As you can see, just looking at the end, it's pretty uniform in thickness and shape, so it's going to cook nicely. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to score it across like that. Okay. And you can see that suddenly it doesn't look like a rack of pork anymore. It looks more like a nice, beautiful gourmet country style. And what I like to use as a binder, you can use, some folks use mustard. I like to just use olive oil. I'm just going to give it a nice coating of olive oil here and kind of get in the grooves there a little bit. All around, we'll flip it over and do the same on the back side. Get in the grooves. And then we're just going to give it a real generous seasoning of our rub that we made. And so you can kind of get it in between everything there. The idea is you want lots of flavor, lots of seasoning on here, so we'll get on the ends as well. We'll flip it over and get it on this end as well. And then we'll get the same thing on the top side here. The other thing about this, besides being much more tender and juicy than regular pork, is you really only have to cook it to just barely 140 degrees till it's done, and that's where we're going to cook it to. So that looks pretty good. Maybe a little more. You really can't put, I'll put more seasoning on, of course, later. Now we're going to put it on the grill. before I put it on the grill, though, what I want to do is I want to use my meat thermometer, because when it gets to 130, I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to put some honey and some vinegar on it, and I'm going to add some seasoning to it. So what I'm doing now, I'm kind of looking for a nice thick place to put the probe here, and I think this looks pretty good. You don't want to be near a bone. That looks pretty good. That's next to a bone. And we're going to put that on the grill. I'm going to come over here, Deb. I can show you what we've got going on. We have a I forget where the little hook is. There it is. We have a two-part cooking system. We have the coals on one side and then an open indirect side on this side. And you know what, I'm going to move this thermometer. You can be picky here, but I'm going to move it back to this side. There are no bones. And I'm just going to lay it in there, put it on the grill. Then I'm going to run my cord up through the top here. This is the part where you try not to get burned. There we go. And you want to have the vents over the open where the heat is, the heat source. These Weber grills are really nice because you really can tune them down where you want them to be. And then I have a nice, I'll plug it into the thermometer, we'll turn that on. And we'll, whoops, I ran the battery down, can you believe that? Well, I'll get a new one, I'll fix it up. Anyway, we're gonna put it in there and then we're just gonna stick it in the magnetic section of my ugly drum and wait till it hits 130 and we'll be back to show you what we have. Alrighty, looks like we're at 133. We did get a battery in there, so it's working fine again. And we'll check to see how this is doing here. Looks like it's going well. We're going to need more than a battery if we keep doing this, aren't we? I'll pull this out for just a minute. Okay. What I want to do is I want to get a little bit of a sear on it here, so I'm gonna flip it over on the coals there, and you can see it still looks pretty rare in the middle, but I want to get a little color on it. Put this back up again, and I'm gonna come back. We're gonna flip it over a couple of times, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna add some honey to it and some more seasoning, and let it kind of glaze a bit, and we'll be ready to eat. Thanks. So obviously we've got a little nice char on there, which is where we want to be. We're at about 139 degrees, just exactly where we want to be. And what we want to do now is we're going to brush it all over with this mixture. And what this mixture is it's like 1/3 apple cider vinegar and 1/3 honey. And what I really want to use it for, besides the extra sweetness and tang there, is just something to hold a little more seasoning. So we're going to season it again. You could sauce it, I suppose, if you like sauce better than this. I kind of like this myself. So this is where we're going with it. I'm going to take it and flip it over on the grill and do the other side. And get a nice brushing on there.
We're back to indirect.
Yes, we're on the indirect side. And we'll just use up all this and get it into little grooves and crevices. The idea is just to add a little extra flavor. I'm not going to sauce these. This is as good as it's going to get. And again, a little more seasoning. Like I said, we were at 139, so we're real close to. USDA says 143 where the resting time is food safe, and we're going to test that right to the limit. So we're good to go. We're going to put the lid on it, and we're going to let it go for about 3 more minutes, and I think it's going to be ready to take off and rest. We'll show you what we have when we're done. We're back. It's done. It looks gorgeous. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it up. Before we do that, though, I want to talk a bit about my book. My book is out of print but available on Amazon for ebook price of $2.99 each. Certainly a good value. It was a $30 book, $29.95. People always have questions about the knives I use. I use a Forstner 6-inch curved boning knife with a flexible blade. Again, this is a Forstner Grattan Edge knife, a couple good meat cutting tools. So what I want to do is I want to cut this up for serving, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the boneless part here at the end, and we'll set that aside, and then we're just going to slice this across the green. Isn't that look gorgeous? And we'll try to cut between those little places. Oh my. And it's perfectly cooked. We finished up at just right at 143 degrees, so you can see how tender it is. And I can guarantee it's juicy because it's this nice Duroc pork. And there's a little juice on here because that's where we had it resting. We're going to put it right back in the juice because that's good. And then these, we're just going to cut between the bones. The only issue with this really is who's going to get the bones. And that may be an issue if there's more than 4 people at your dinner table, which is kind
I'm
of
telling you, smell-o-vision, it smells
it is good.
Wonderful.
So there we are. Beautiful center cut Duroc pork, country style ribs. Try it, you'll like it. And if you like it well enough to subscribe, I'd appreciate that too as well. Always like comments. Take care. It's on the recipe there, and play it for just long enough that folks can stop the video or pause the video and get the recipe. That seems to be the easiest way. Everything's in tablespoons except for the 2 yellow circled ingredients, the Calabrian peppers and the chili powder, and those are in teaspoon amounts. And you can see I put it on a plate here, and I've got the kosher salt. I like to use the turbinado sugar. You can, of course, you can use brown sugar if you like that best. Coarse black pepper, onion and garlic, chili powder, some mustard, some smoked paprika to give a little bit of flavor. And I'm using because I went to a specialty spice store over my weekend, and I bought some just wonderful Calabrian chili pepper. And of course you could use cayenne pepper, any pepper that sounds good to you for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix this together. We're going to put it in a little container here. Dump it all together. You got that, Deb? Are you good? We can pour. Can't come back again. Alrighty. So we've got it in our little container, and I just want to mix it up real well. This is what's going to give our pork the flavor, is this nice rub. And I like making rubs because pretty much I have to tell you, every time I make a rub, it's a little different than the rub I made before. And it kind of is nice to have just as a seasoning. It's good on corn. It's good on almost everything but oatmeal, I think, unless you're making a nice savory oatmeal. You can see we've got a nice mixture on that. And so what I want to do now is I'm going to pour it back on the plate again. Then I'm going to put it in our shaker because it's just easier to use that way. And we'll put some in the shaker here. And maybe we'll get it all in there. Most of it. There we go. And put the rest back in the container. I like to make enough that it's going to last me for a little while, and then when it runs down, I'll make a new one. Different, of course. The things that I usually put in it every time are kosher salt, sugar, fresh cracked pepper, granulated onion and garlic, and some kind of chili smoke. Some smoked paprika, of course, gives a little smoky taste. The Calabrian peppers are nice because they're a little less heat than a cayenne pepper, but they have kind of a smoky, sweet flavor as well. So there we go. We've got a nice container here of rub ready to go.